A person's home should be large enough to be comfortable in, but small enough to force one outside. Chinese proverb. In 2013, the average size of homes built hit 2,600 square feet, up from 1,400 square feet in 1970 and more than double in size since 1950. Mega houses 4,000 square feet and up accounted for more than 9% of new homes. Why this constant expansion, if not the direct result of watching home and garden television? What's to come of the open land space and the surrounding terrain as this growth phenomenon goes unchecked? Most importantly, is this increased, never-ending expansion of indoor space and subsequent consumption of material items with which to fill and enhance them, adding to our individual, or most importantly, collective happiness quotient. At 3,000 square feet and counting, plus driveways, garages, and all the other accoutrements, we have to be conscious of the amount of resources required to build and run said complexes. The largest and grandest of all RVs will top a little over 400 square feet. It's not rocket science to see that it takes upwards of 10 times or more the amount of resources to construct the average family home compared to the biggest, most luxurious RV on the market today. What about gas consumption in those beasts, is the cry. The average American home also has cars for all of its occupants, most often multiple cars for multiple people. Many of these vehicles are simply commuting back and forth to work to pay for it all, a poor waste of resources. The average full-time RVer stays put for several days at a time, moving a certain number of miles, usually not far, not to mention the fact that driving an RV through nature, soaking it all in, permanently enhances the lives of all the occupants rather than driving in boring, repetitive circles. Emptiness of civilization causes us to consume products to fill the void and dissatisfaction of not being able to fill ourselves with pure, unadulterated biological life force. Large walk-in closets, expansive storage buildings, and multi-car garages house it all. Our consumption grows in proportion to the emptiness we feel internally, in a never-ending struggle to satiate our insatiable appetites for empty calories. Collectively, the city sprawls and grows as we cluster alongside each other, eating everyone and everything in its path. By virtue of the sheer size of their homes, full-time RVers are constantly pruning and refining their possessions. To bring in new things, often room must be made by getting rid of the old. There is a natural tendency to minimize belongings due to the built-in storage constraints and weight-carrying capacity of our micro-homes. Some will argue that we are doing without. 'Tis so far from the truth. A large Class A or a large comfortably sized fifth wheel has so much storage it's almost obscene, yet not as obscene as even a small condo or average American home in terms of sheer stuff carrying capacity. In our opinion, the average house exists as it is, to house the dysfunctional occupants against the stresses of trying to live in a society that emphasizes that happiness is indoors, when in fact, the exact opposite is true. Happiness is being immersed in and close to nature. Thus, an RV is the most appropriate home for fully alive humans, as they are a magic carpet transport to natural habitats across the terrain, true life machines. Confinement leads to wanting to escape in this age of neighborhood watch programs and general lockdown. It most often causes a person to expand inwards inside their own house, with endless remodeling projects and additions, TVs in every room, and other fruitless attempts to find the real expansion and escape they seek, to reconnect with the wide open spaces they subconsciously crave. Full-time RVers, by virtue of their chosen location, often have all of nature as their backyard, and when anchored in their tiny homes, feel they are in the lap of luxury when parked. This isn't primitive camping, my friends. This is the refinement of the best that modern culture provides us, miniaturized, hyper-efficient, and on wheels, ready to roll onto the next uplifting adventure. RV life naturally and single-handedly eliminates the waste of both materials to build these monster houses and the runaway consumption of resources required to run them. The hilarious fact is that even the largest, most monstrous RV uses a small fraction of the resources required to run the smallest stick-and-brick home. RV life is conservation itself. Ultimately, there is no water shortage going on, no land shortage, no resource shortage. Rather, there is a misuse and an unnatural demand on what should be shared resources. When boondocking, our small water tanks of 100 or so gallons of water can sip from the smallest water sources and last for several days to even weeks for the conservative and experienced boondocker. Even on full hookups, the most wasteful RVer hardly touches a tiny fraction of the average water consumption of any home dweller. Is it wise use to run the multitude of houses, restaurants, motels, grocery stores, gyms, schools, and so on, consuming the large amounts of fuel to commute to them, the enormous energy to cool and heat them, and the consumption of the large amounts of water being piped around to supply a tsunami of liquid to our inefficient toilets and sinks to flush it all away? Or should we save these precious resources to use in our miniature homes? Perhaps the real education can come from nature. The groceries from the lakes, rivers, forests, and fields, and our community gardens and food forests. The workouts from the landscapes, and the restaurant travels with us all the time, no staff required. Everything in an RV is in easy reach, convenient by design and purpose. You don't have to cross a large room to go to the fridge. The bathroom is compact and efficient. Like on a boat, everything necessary is at your fingertips with no wasted space. A bit of time ago, RVs were not the most comfortable things to dwell in full time, and God forbid the feng shui factor that existed before the pre-slide-out era. But that time is long gone, having given way to nice spacious floor plans limited only by our imagination that also travel extremely well and conveniently. Despite their mistaken and misguided stigma, when looked at objectively from a distance, upon closer inspection, our micro-homes end up taking better care of us and take better care of our planet at the same time. We will merely sip slowly from the natural resources we all share, leaving plenty for all, and have a more interesting life to boot by magnitudes. Take an omen and cue from the senior population, who upon reaching retirement age realize, all too late, that the lifelong accumulation of all that bulk and fluffy nothingness was all for naught, and sell it all in its worthlessness, buy a new RV, and hit the road in an attempt to go and live for the short remainder of time they have left, often with backs broken from carrying the heavy lifetime load. Indeed, the greatness is truly in the smallness of our comfortable nomadic homes, and with nature as our backdrop, the rest we can do without.